Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick preview for the Sony CyberShot RX100 Mark III. This is not the successor to the Mark II. Much like the Mark II, it was a complement to the Mark I, and the Mark III will not replace the two, but rather just offer yet another more premium option at another price point for consumers looking to put the best camera they can in their pocket. So the Mark II, priced at originally $750 at launch, we're now looking at $799.99 for the Mark III, and it makes sense. In fact, for the $50 more in terms of actual retail suggested pricing, this is a relative bargain. Of course, though, retail pricing is just that. You can now find the Mark II for roughly I would say $650 to $700 on any given day, depending on the sale. And then the Mark I is still out there, even though it doesn't have a lot of the modern flair that both of these cameras sport, and as well as some of the redesign here in the Mark III. It is still one of the best pocket point-and-shoot cameras ever made, just because of its lens, sensor pairing, build quality, and form factor. But let's focus on the Mark III. So it's $799.99. The most important thing this camera does, in my opinion, well, there are a few of them. It incorporates the electronic viewfinder that so many users wanted on the Mark I and Mark II. And the Mark II addressed that with the hot shoe that you see right there. But of course, the hot shoe only gave you an optional $450 viewfinder. There was no less expensive option. And that actually made, I think, not a lot of users, but certainly some of you, pass on this camera. And the first gen where you didn't even have the option. Now we have it built in to the exact same spot that the flash was on the Mark I and II. By the way, the 20 megapixel sensor is exactly the same 1-inch sensor found in the Mark II. Right there you can see a perfect illustration, or rather photograph, of the actual change in the design of this camera. So it's only a little bit thicker. It still has the same articulating display that the Mark II has, that's in my hand right now. However, the Mark III in the background, the display can flip all the way around 180 degrees to give you the selfie capability. This grip is compatible, by the way, that I reviewed in the past, for those of you that are curious. But no hot shoe anymore, so no external microphone option via the hot shoe. But instead of the flash being right here, you can see we now have the flash moved to center where the hot shoe used to be. And instead we have a T-Star coated OLED viewfinder, in fact the exact same OLED viewfinder found on the RX10. So I already know what to expect in terms of performance, and that is a good thing. And the more that I tell you about the specifications, it seems that the Mark III is a relative bargain, again based on suggested pricing, because at only $50 more than the $750 Mark II, you're getting a better lens, because something I haven't touched on is the redesign of the lens. Rather than the T-Star coated Zeiss 29, I believe, to 100 millimeter lens that we had here, which had an f1.8 at its brightest, but not constant, we now have an f1.8 to f2.8 constant across its entire range, 24 to 70 millimeter 35 equivalent. So a better piece of glass that's going to ensure that even though we've got the same sensor, we're going to get better images, even if we've given up a little bit of that zoom range. And in fact, we've gotten a wider range in terms of its starting point at 24 mil, which I think a lot of users will prefer. Clearly, Sony believed that as well. In terms of other things to note, beyond the electronic viewfinder that you see right there, which is a killer feature popping up like that, it's cool, it's engineering that was logical, and I'm glad they brought it in. Of course, in real-world use, I'll see how it works out for me, as will all of you that pick up the camera. But another critical thing is video quality. We now have, I won't say the exact same quality as Sony's top-of-the-line 1080p consumer Handycam, but very close, because we are now working with the new codec, xavc-s, and we do have a 50 megabit per second there rate. So you're getting pretty much the same 1080p, or very close to the same 1080p video quality you would out of a $1,500 video camera. Granted, you don't have the same lens or range or stabilization, but Sony has also improved stabilization here. We have 5-axis stabilization now, which from what I've seen looks really solid. Again, until I get the camera and actually test it, I can't tell you that it is that good, but it looks good at least at first glance. Other than that, everything else has pretty much stayed the same. I've mentioned that the screen can now articulate fully and give you selfie capability. You've got the added benefit of the viewfinder, still retained Wi-Fi and NFC. Build quality I expect to be the same. The flash can bounce, so for those of you that are worried or curious, don't worry, it does still have that ability to flex. And the real improvements are clear. You've got a better lens, better video performance in terms of the actual codec as well as actual readout of the 1-inch sensor, and that's also because this camera is powered by the Beyond X chip that started out in Sony's Alpha line, the A7, A7R, and has made its way into every top-tier DI product that they're making these days, and that's something that the Mark II does not have, nor did the Mark I. So still 10 frames per second continuous shooting on this camera, much like the RX100 and Mark II, but better low light performance. I believe it's ISO 80 to 12,800. So I expect better performance there. The JPEG engine is going to work a little bit better in camera processing. RAW will still be exactly what you expect it to be, but that pretty much sums things up. I know I didn't exactly go over each specification here. And one important one that I didn't mention, which I just looked at here, is you do have a built-in neutral density filter. So that's another great thing, especially for you video enthusiasts that do want to leverage that extra video quality that I've been talking about. That's going to come in hand a lot for you. So that's another important thing to point out. I've already mentioned, of course, the actual lens and the fact that even though we've given up some range, we have a faster piece of glass that's going to give, in theory, better images across the entire range. And that just makes for a better camera. So between the better processor, we already have a best-in-class 1-inch chip, the actual sensor, I mean, the 1-inch imaging sensor, complemented by all of these things. And the fact that we have, the better video quality to boot, which Sony didn't need to throw in there, but they knew it would round out making this camera as modern as possible, and it really does. HDMI clean output, which is a good thing if you want to actually capture off of it. And considering the video quality, it would be understandable why you could use this as a B or C camera. And since it is pretty much my B camera to begin with, and I think for many other users, and an A for just about anyone who wants best-in-class pocketable capability, I mean the RX series in general, the 100 and Mark II, I expect even better performance here. So $50 more buys you quite a bit more kit. Accessories still the same battery type. I expect the same battery life. I'll see if they mention anything here. But overall, this is, again, just going to raise the bar. There's no competition for the RX100 or the Mark II, so now what will there be for the Mark III? You can see all the picture effects. These are gimmicks I'm not interested in, really. You can see they do actually say that you can extend the range on the ISO up to 25,600. But from what I read online in marketing, 12,800 was the actual standard in-camera setting, and it appears that is the case here. So you can go beyond the general range. Just like I mentioned, ISO 80, that's again beyond the base of 125 that it starts out at. But overall, this is one of those cameras that's equally like the Mark I or Mark II, a great camera for a novice, someone who's going to stay in auto all the time, or the person that wants to be manual, hands-on, and really grow with something that appears to be a point-and-shoot camera, but can almost give you APS-C digital SLR-like results, especially when paired with this great glass. In terms of SD cards, SDXC you will need for that 50 megabit per second video bit rate when shooting in the xavc-s format. For stills, though, a traditional SD card will do, but SDXC is what you're going to want to stick with for all of the latest and greatest. That's what I recommend, even if you're going the micro SD card route with an adapter. But there you have it, a 20 megapixel sensor that's proven in the Mark II as well as in the RX10, complemented by the same EVF, OLED EVF as the RX10, but popping out of this body, video quality that will surpass the RX10. I mean, this thing is a steal when you think about everything they've crammed into here. So I think a lot of people are going to like it. The price will only go down. Better image stabilization. There really isn't anything, at least that I can see at surface value, to dislike about the Mark III, other than the fact that it's an $800 point-and-shoot camera, which for those of you that desire all of these things, then you're not going to care, because Sony has finally really made a legitimate upgrade, in my opinion, to the Mark I, something that the Mark II was really just a modernization, an improvement, not an actual replacement. And here we see a significant enhancement. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.